Hi, Tyler. Do you want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Tyler. I'm 13 years old and I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at the age of about 7.
Okay. Yeah. And do you have any hobbies?
I enjoy playing with Nerf guns and Lego and cars.
Nerf guns, Legos, and cars. That's kind of like engineering to me,
Yeah.
that sounds like. And do you go to a local school?
I'm homeschooled.
Homeschooled?
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, Tyler is homeschooled and he comes in with his mum Paula and helps us to volunteer here at the Play Doctors. Tyler is a young gentleman who has been using our consequence spinners, positive and negative consequence spinners. And today we're going to have a quick video blog chat about how to use the consequence spinners. So Tyler, tell me a little bit about it. The consequence spinners that you used were ones that are these ones that we sell on our website. But why did you think it was a good idea to be able to use a consequence spinner in the first place?
It takes away the connection between the parents and the consequences, so you don't feel like your parents are the bad guys because they're not giving you punishments.
So this is in relation to behaviour. So perhaps you would be asked to do something by your mum and you hadn't actually done it, and then your mum was getting really cross with you, and what kind of consequences did you end up having to do before you had the consequence spinner? What kind of things were consequences to
It'd
behaviour?
probably be stuff like my Xbox getting taken away and not being allowed to use the TV.
Okay, and then how did you feel towards your parents in the fact that they were constantly telling you off or giving you a consequence?
I felt angry.
Angry towards your mum and dad. Okay, yep, I understand that entirely. And the consequence spinners is actually a different way of being able to support and manage behaviour, but it's not just in relation to negative behaviour, it's also in relation to positive behaviour. So do you want to just explain how it works before we actually start talking about how you used it? So how do the consequence spinners work?
So on these little tiles, there's little triangles, and on those you write the consequences. On this one you would write positive consequences. On this one here you would write the negative consequences. And then you spin the little arrow, and whatever consequence it lands on, you get that consequence.
Okay, so give me an example of the type of consequence that you would write onto it. And you use a dry white marker, and then you can rub it off as many times as you like and redo them. So on the positive consequence, give me an example of what was written on the one that you used over the summer holidays.
I had later bedtime, so I'd go to bed half an hour later.
Okay.
I had one less chore, so I would be able to get out of doing a chore.
Yeah.
I had a small toy as a present.
Okay, so they're examples of positive consequences. When did you get them? When did you get those positive consequences? What
For
kind of things
instance,
did you need to do?
If I cleared the table without being asked, or went and tidied my bedroom without being asked, or went to bed without any fuss, then I would get the positive consequence spinner.
Excellent. Well, I'm very, very proud of you. Well done. Okay, so this is the difficult bit, the negative one. So in relation to the negative one, what kind of things did you, well, you've already said what you've had written on there for positive. Was it kind of like the opposite for the negative consequences?
So I had earlier bedtime, but I also had things like screen ban, which is literally anything that has a screen, like TV, Xbox, computer, phone, anything. I'd have a screen ban.
Okay.
So can't use any of those.
And so that was when you did something that was inappropriate behaviour, or
So like being nasty to other people, or refusing to go to bed when asked, things like that.
yeah, okay. And then were you given a choice? Were you given a choice that you do as I've asked you to do, or you get to spin the spinner?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel that impacted on you? What difference did it make to you?
Well, it meant that I knew what the consequences were, and I knew that I definitely didn't want to get any of them. So I really didn't want to get the thing, so I just didn't do the bad thing.
You didn't do the bad thing. Okay, so you feel that by having that consequence spinner, rather than just immediately being told that you'd got a consequence and that you'd got a punishment of some description, instead you had an option, you had a choice, and did it give you time to think about your behaviour?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So
sometimes they would have, if you do this, you'll have a spin of the negative spinner. If you don't do that and you do this instead, then you'll spin the positive one.
Sounds good to me. So did you feel that it actually worked?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how many times in the day would that be used? Every day?
Me and my sister combined, probably 1 or 2.
Yeah, 1 or 2 times a day. Okay. So with your sister, was the consequences the same for your sister?
Yeah, but they would be adjusted slightly. So with the later bedtime, it would be a little bit later rather than half an hour. So it would be
like quarter of an hour.
Yeah,
quarter of an hour later. Okay, so there's flexibility in how the consequences can
depending
happen.
on how bad you've been or how good you've been, they can be changed. So small toys present, the present can be bigger or smaller.
So it could be like a little packet of sweets, or it could be a game for your Xbox if it was really special. Yeah, mind you, that you'd have to do something pretty good to get a game for your Xbox. Okay, well that sounds really good. Thank you. So how old do you think that the spinner would be useful for? How old do you think children would be that could use that?
I think probably between 3 and 14.
Okay, and why do you say that?
Well, I think before 3 years old, you probably wouldn't understand it very well, and once you get to about 14, you probably just think it's really childish and not really care.
Yeah, so kind of like just a little bit older than primary school age. Yeah, and it would work because it's up to the individual themselves to be able to determine what the consequences are. Were they written for you by your mum, or did you write them yourself?
I wrote them myself, so that there was no connection at all between my parents and the consequences.
Okay, and that also meant that if it was a negative consequence and you spun your spinner, then you couldn't argue with your mum over what the consequence was, because actually the consequence was something that you'd written yourself. Yeah. Okay, so do you think that this is something you'd recommend to other people to use?
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say about it in relation to kind of its use or how it works, or anything about how it's actually made?
I would say probably use a little tissue to wipe off the marker, otherwise you might get ink on your fingers. And also and also spin it on a flat surface rather than at a slant, because if you spin it on a flat surface, then it will spin better. If you spin it on a slanted surface, it's more likely to land up or down.
Okay, well that's very good advice. Thank you, Tyler. That's excellent. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.